Hello, dear friends. February 2024, beautiful sunny day. I actually had to move my camera because it's so bright. I wanted to share with you a quick quote from The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins. But before I do that, 3 steps to being an atheist or to becoming an atheist that I think a person would have to go through. I really want to thank all the people that commented on my videos. I greatly appreciate it. I had a few trolls, but nothing too serious. I made some nasty replies, but as far as I know, I don't think I had to delete any of my replies. I did have to delete a few trolls, but nothing serious. Just really, really appreciate the replies, the comments, and I'm very thankful for that. So, but I didn't realize atheism was such a hot topic, and so I'd like to just dwell on that for a little bit. The 3 steps: you have to reject the scriptures to become an atheist. That's number 1. And I think that seems very easy for most people. That seems like the easiest step. The most common reply I get is, one is that because it mentions slavery in the Bible, Moses was dealing with his society at the time, and he was trying to interpret what God told him, right? You had the 10 Commandments, which are direct instructions from God, right, on the tablets and all that. But, you know, the burning bush, his conversations with God, I don't know how Moses interpreted it. And then, depending on his culture of the day, on and on, when Christ came, he said, a greater than Moses is here. He said, you have your hope in Moses, good luck with that. He said, now you have a greater than Moses is here, and I'm telling you that the truth can set you free, right? We have in the New Covenant that says, he says, you were bought with a price, don't become slaves of men, which would have been revolutionary at the time because slavery was rampant. Rome conquered all these places, they had slaves all over the place, right? And so there you go. If you can become free, rather do that. And it said, if you're already stuck as a slave, try and treat your slave owner as if you're serving, God. Do it to the best of your ability, basically. And thank God I'm retired, so I've gained my freedom from slavery, if you want to call it that. But if you look at someone who's stuck in a cubicle for 40 years, 8 hours a day, I wouldn't call it slavery, but it's not far off, right? When we're taxed to death and we're this and that, you know the situation that we're in. And in other parts of the world, in other places in the world, there is still slavery going on, like slavery from 2,000 years ago. And it's scary and sad, but hopefully that as the world progresses and civilization progresses, we can get out of that. But that's the first one. The second way that people reject the scriptures is they say it's fairy tale. That's very common. Oh, it's a fairy tale. It's fairy tale. It's fairy tale. It's fairy tales. A lot of the Old Testament can be allegories, but maybe a lot of it is metaphorical. But look at the documented biographies of Christ, and I know that these new scholars that are coming up and saying, oh, either he never lived, or they're secondhand accounts, or they're like, oh no, they were written in way after the first century. They're first century accounts written by 4 different individuals. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4. 4 individuals documenting the life and deeds of Christ, but more importantly, the words. Even Jesus said, if you don't believe my miracles, at least listen to the words that I'm telling you. He explained God to us and for us. So that's the first way that to be an atheist, you have to reject the testimony of the scriptures. And for a lot of atheists, I think that's the easiest step. The second is rejecting the testimony of nature. Paul wrote to the Romans and told them that nature reveals the glory of God, and that revelation is plain to see. And so people say, oh well, you could just have any God, or they'll have a reason why. But if you look at the words that he says that which is known about God is evident within them. And this is the third. The second and third kind of go together. That the testimony from nature, and the third is to reject the inner testimony that's within your heart. He says that God, that what is known about God is evident within them, for God made it evident to them. He said, since creation, his invisible attributes, his divine nature, through what has been made, is revealed to them. So we see in nature the divine revelation of God, but they reject it. And it says, though they knew God, they became futile, and then their senseless hearts were darkened. They rejected this testimony within their hearts through the creation, because anybody that looks at creation, you can say, where did all this come from? And I'm gonna give a quote from Dawkins that relates to that. Where did everything come from? Where did creation start? How did life form? And they did not honor him. That's why I often mention Lucifer, because Lucifer would not accept the sovereignty of God. He would not honor God. And this is what happens. So those three things, the rejecting of Scripture, rejecting the testimony of nature, and rejecting the inner spirit, that's what people do, and their hearts become darkened, becomes futile. And what happens when you continue on that path of rejecting this testimony that's within your heart? Atheists would say, well, it's just a blank slate. I don't believe anything, don't want anything to do with God. It's just there's nothing there. Well, oftentimes that gets replaced, and you can see it in the comments that it gets replaced with, even jokingly, representations of death, representations of Satan. You know, I just got a comment on my thing a second time. Hail Satan, somebody put. Why would they put that? When I'm talking about atheism, atheists constantly say, oh, no, we don't believe in Satan because that's just imaginary too. But how come those two seem to go together? Somebody said, oh, maybe you're posting those things. I'm not posting any comments. They may be coming from bots. I recognize that. They may be coming from just maybe YouTube creates those to make engagement. Nowadays, with all this AI stuff, I have no idea of knowing. But I'm assuming that most of those comments are genuine from real, actual people. So there you go. I wanted to mention those three steps. I want to keep this video short. I don't want to go on and on. The other book that I had mentioned, one of my other videos, was the Bhagavad Gita. And that was edited and translated by the guy with the spinning wheel, Gandhi, right? Mahatma Gandhi. And I read it. It's a good book. And you know, they believe in Brahman, like the great is their kind of term for the creator or for God. And according to the second chapter in Romans, Paul said it doesn't matter what religion you're in. Judgment will be, whether you're a Jew or a Gentile. He said that if you're pursuing righteousness in your chosen faith, your judgment is going to be better if you're seeking righteousness. If you're trying to honor God and follow those testimonies, those three testimonies that I mentioned, then you're going to be accepted. And if you're rejecting those three testimonies and you're pursuing evil within your own religion, whether it's the Hindu or Brahmin, the Bhagavad Gita, whatever it is you're following, Buddhism or all that kind of stuff, and you're pursuing evil, then your judgment is going to be harsh. You're going to be in for a bad situation. I don't know what that situation is, and I'm thankful Paul doesn't mention it. But, you know, do you want to have a good judgment in eternity or bad? And people say, well, I don't believe any of it. Well, this is the testimony that do you really not have any awareness of God in your heart? Dear atheist out there that may be watching this, you know, you got to be honest with yourself, and Paul would certainly disagree with you. Now look at this, page 258. He's gone through 258 pages of this book, very dense. The guy's, you know, a scholar. He's a wordsmith. He's extremely talented in presenting his arguments. And now he says on page 258, nowadays, this cooperation between genes goes on with cells. He's talking about how genes cooperate. He says, boom, it must have started as rudimentary cooperation between self-replicating molecules in the primeval soup. I just want to repeat that again. This is Dawkins' explanation of the formation of life on Earth. It must have started as rudimentary cooperation between self-replicating molecules in the primeval soup, or whatever primeval medium there was. Cell walls perhaps arose as a device to keep useful chemicals together and stop them leaking away. Many of the chemical reactions in the cell go on in the membranes, and the membranes act as a conveyor belt and test tube, and it just continues on. Drifts right off into his academic language for the next remainder of the book, which is only another short, actually it goes on to like over 300 pages. But anyway, there you go. In black and white, page 258. Must have just started. Must have started. Must have. That is the foundation of the selfish gene, according to Richard Dawkins. You can read it yourself. It's a very boring read. It's very difficult to get through, and it's senseless, futile, and Dawkins has caused the shipwreck of many people's faith. Same as Sam Harris and the other prominent atheists. They've suffered, a lot of people, because of listening to them. Their faith has gone shipwrecked. And what happens in time of need, in times of emergency? Who can you call out to when you need help, when you need a divine intervention? And divine interventions happens all the time. That's another testimony that occurs all the time. People get rescued, they get healed, and a lot of people don't. I realize that. But if you look through recorded history, not just the miracles of Jesus, but there's been miracles all through history, recorded by many different people. You can read many different Christian books if you wanted to get into that topic. You could look into the near-death experience topic. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of near-death experiences of people that when they come back, they're convinced that there's a God. They're convinced that there's nothing to be afraid of when it comes to dying. And so I'll leave that with you. I'll cut it short. God bless you very much. I really appreciate your comments on my videos lately because they've kind of more than I can respond to, and I'm trying to catch up to the comments. I was kind of thinking to myself, it would be fun to kind of try and respond to every comment and then document and have a record, you know, of just interacting with atheists, because I've only really known not that many atheists in my life. And so I really appreciate your feedback. I'm very thankful for it. So God bless you. Thank you for watching. Spend time with people you love. I love you very much. I hope that you're doing well. And I was going to say something about the trolls, but I better not. I'll have to be very careful. You know, got to show a good Christian attitude to the nasty trolls as well, right? See, now that I've gotten a little bit of feedback, I feel more pressure. And this is a good thing, because now I feel, well, gee, I better be a little more careful. I better be a little bit of a better person. And so that's what I'm thankful for. Thank you for helping me to be a little bit better person, because the atheists out there are watching me say, oh, he said this and he's this and how dare you and all this kind of stuff. So thank you very much for inspiring me. I really, really appreciate it. Have yourself a great day. Enjoy the fantastic weather. It's so sunny today. I'm going to go for a walk now. So we'll talk to you later. Take care. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.